Welcome to the Big Fat Gay Podcast. I'm Trevor Keyson. I'm a super chub, and today I'm going to be guiding the sleigh with my butt so bright.
Blinding.
It's going to be kind of shimmying backwards.
It does provide for quite the visual. That's all I'm saying.
I feel like Dan today. I don't know how to follow that. Hi, my name is Michael. I'm a chaser, and I suppose I'm the one following Trevor's red butt into the atmosphere.
Well, actually, he'd be facing you.
Oh, right.
That's true.
Because the butt is leading. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to tell me if there's any branches or anything.
Left, go left. No, not that left. My left, not your left.
My name's Don. I'm a big chubby guy living here in sunny Hollywood. And today I am going to be our slow-paced joy of the season. I am loving life. And it's going to take me a very long time to finish any sentence because when we are done with this today, I'm going to go get a root canal. So every single monologue I give today is going to be incredibly long. And Michael's going to have to cut it up a lot because as long as the show doesn't end, I'm safe. So
that's true.
We'll just keep talking.
What an incredible coincidence. Hi, I'm Dan Oliverio, author, public speaker, and chubby chaser. And yes, Trevor and I, after this, we too are going to the dentist. We're going to go get our gums stabbed, which is what we call teeth cleaning.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
It's dental day.
Oh, no, but as usual, I'm perky.
Find it. There it is. My
Don't mind me.
speaking voice.
Just clearing the sewer.
I was actually singing through the house the other day that it is the gum stabbingest time of the year. It's Patreon plug-in time too.
That's right.
We have done it.
We did it. It actually happened.
We did the thing.
We did the thing we said we were going to do. What did we do, Trevor?
We did our cooking episode with appetizers.
Mm-hmm.
4 appetizers for the price of 1.
Ooh. Oh, yes.
Actually, no, it's the price of 4 appetizers. But for you, listener.
The cost of entry. The cost of entry is just a meager Patreon subscription.
Yeah.
$5 or more. And you get that, which I think you would knock this, as I was saying during the episode, or the minisode, you can go to that bitch Karen's party and just knock the socks off of anybody there and then convince them to come to your party afterward and say, well, we got more of those.
That's right. More socks.
More of those, sock knocking off appetizers.
Because your feet are cold after that happens. You got to go somewhere.
Yeah, just
I thought you were going to be nice and replace their socks.
No. They got to bring your own socks or do a sock exchange.
Sock and knockatizers.
Oh, wow. Sock knockatizers.
That's great. That's great.
Dan's over there like, please God save me from this.
No, I you know me, I'm a word nerd, so I like sock and knockatizers.
Anyway, you can find that and much more on Patreon, where we like to put all of extra content, things that are cut from the show but are still fun and interesting, and more behind-the-scenes videos. Anything else that we can think of, please support us there because we need to pay the poor editor who's overworked most of the time. Particularly,
that's a whipping sound.
Oh, I do have one of those. Particularly at this time of the year,
More content.
It's more content all the time. Except for the last week of the month. This month,
Yes.
I need a break. We all need a break. We need a short break, and then we'll be back bright and early, first thing, start of January for the next episode, first episode of 2023.
Yes.
That's the regular podcast, not just Patreon. We're moving to an all Patreon model. No. We'd never do that.
No, we would not.
But do write in and tell us what topics you think we should start off the new year with.
Oh, that'd be good.
Oh yeah, I'm down for that. New Year's always has a lot of formats around it, as far as what are you going to do with your life? Well, I don't know. Fuck if I know.
What did you do with your life last year?
Yeah.
What didn't you like? What did you like? All right. Well, without further ado.
I feel pop culture coming on.
Jazz hands.
I don't even know why we have the music when you boys sing along.
We do, damn it.
So we're starting off our little holiday festival episode
with steamy.
A suggestion, maybe you need to pick up a book or something. I don't know, at your local bookstore, e-reader.
What's that?
Renting from your library or doing like one of those ebook library things.
Mm-hmm.
There's an
What might they
article
want to read?
about A Merry Little Meet Cute
Mm-hmm.
by Julie Murphy and Bethany Hagen, aka Sierra Simone. And there was an interview with Bethany Hagen in the Kansas City Star, talking about the book and just kind of talking about being a writer of spicy stories.
I love that spicy's become the new porno.
Well, but it's like not porn. It's like
We needed a new word for that sort of middle point.
I think moms did, because they've been reading these books for generations.
Yeah.
And they can't, and it's like, well, it's not smut. I would never read smut, but I would read something spicy.
Yeah, I
Is
mean, you
erotica-
can't bring a porn book to your book club, but if you're going to read 50 Shades of Grey, you just need to
You just call
rebrand it a
you
little
rebrand, you
bit.
call it spicy. Exactly. Yeah.
Anyway, they're doing a collaboration, or did a collaboration, to make this sort of, what do they call it? Naughty and nice.
Naughty
Yes.
and nice.
Naughty and nice. Sort of imagine like Hallmarky rom-com, but starring a porn star.
yeah.
And she gets cast in a holiday rom-com.
No, but why this is so great is that she's a plus size porn
Yes.
star.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, we should have started with that.
She's a plus size
That's
porn
the
star.
point.
And that's
Plus size.
Yeah.
And then one of her fans, unbeknownst to her, is either on set or in the movie
Right.
with
No,
her.
I think it's her co-star
Is it?
actually
Okay.
knows her work
Yes.
from that side
because
of the tracks.
he like yes,
Because
he's a huge fan. Huge. And then, of course, you can extrapolate from there. She has made a point in this article to say, like, they're not shying away, even though it's Julie Murphy, who is typically known for, like, young adult, sort of coming-of-age stories, which are much more...
to remind
innocent than this.
listeners, it's like Dumplin'.
Yes, which we talked about,
yeah.
God, a couple years ago.
She wrote Dumplin',
And other books as well.
which was also a movie with Jennifer Aniston.
It is just as spicy as any of the other books. And Dan, to hammer the point home, she herself uses the word spicy to describe her own book.
Well, of
And-
course she
Yeah.
does.
Yes, and
She
that's my
lives
point.
in
It's not
Kansas
just
City.
it's not just the author of the article using a euphemism to
No,
get
no,
around
no.
saying
I agree.
erotica.
No, it's,
Taking your coastal elite attitude to this delightful little, homespun, sexy book.
I'm just picturing this 52-year-old woman in Ohio with white hair and 6 kids saying, like, this year I really got naughty with the gingerbread and I put extra ginger. It's a little spicy.
But that's who's going to be reading
Gumdrop
this. and,
Boobies,
like-
Dan. Gumdrop Boobies.
Gumdrop boobies. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think that might be the episode title.
I don't know. Apple Podcast is a little. You have to be careful what kind of words you put in the title.
Yeah, they don't like
spicy.
spicy.
I've had a couple rejected. I've had a couple rejected before for being too
Spicy?
salacious. Yes.
I think all of this has just kind of proved why spicy is perfect.
Anyway, so if you need a little
Spice.
saucy holiday reading, which I'm sure is just as
Hot. The
bad.
word is hot.
If you want your
Steamy? Do you mind steamy?
Steamy's better.
Why? Why is steamy better? It's still a
Because
euphemism.
it's closer to hot.
Hot is also a
pretty close to
euphemism.
hot. No, because people get hot and their dicks get hot and things get hot.
Dicks get hot. Okay.
if you want your flight home to grandma to be naughty and nice,
And hot.
pick up this book for your flight.
Dan, if you have the ability to ignite penises, I'm fascinated.
I don't usually do that in public, Don,
Oh,
but
okay, got it.
yes.
I like how Trevor was trying to have a very professional wrap up of this discussion, and we're still
No,
we're still
flaming
in the middle.
penises.
Okay.
Gumdrop boobs and flaming penises. It's that kind of Christmas.
Oh, I can't wait.
The best kind of Christmas.
Well, on a worse note,
Yeah.
apparently, at least in the United States, there is a Santa shortage. Womp,
Which I
womp.
think this was, I don't know, entirely foreseeable.
I don't
Just
understand
given-
how a Santa shortage coincided with an obesity epidemic.
I mean, I have to say,
Yeah,
when I
we're
was
solving this problem, aren't we?
so this is from Yahoo News, and when I was reading this, I'm like, I actually feel like I didn't see as many of the Santas at Bigger Vegas as I normally do.
That's true. Sans Santas.
I guess I wouldn't have a point of
Yeah,
comparison.
There was
no
one.
point of
There was
comparison.
one gentleman in particular who I've seen at a lot of events.
Oh, yeah.
Who was not there, and I don't know if he just didn't come, if God
Yeah.
forbid something happened to him, if he just was there and I didn't see him. Like he just kind of put his little finger to his nose whenever I walked by, and there was a sparkly effect, and he just disappeared. I don't know.
That's a hell of a power to have.
You know what, though? As long as you still believe in them, they're still there.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there aren't enough Santas. In fact, the demand, having diminished obviously during quarantine, has gone up to 120% of what it was in 2019.
Pre-pandemic.
Pre-pandemic, exactly. So
If you think about it, there are a lot of families out there that have kids that they were too young for Santa when the pandemic started. And now they're at an age where like, this is critical Santa lap time.
yeah.
You know?
Well, see, but I think part of it is because we have gone back to a point where like pandemic's over, back to normal, and it's like we're still in this.
Everything's
Actually,
completely normal.
we have the quote unquote triple demic now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of just
Like
perfect
these Santas
shitstorm.
would literally be risking their lives because everyone's going to go up there and say like, well, we can't have the kid with a mask for the photograph.
Yeah.
Please take off your mask while you're on this endangered gentleman's lap.
Yeah, well, and that's what they're saying. Yeah.
You little germ nexus.
As Miranda Priestley says, they're an incubus of viral plague.
Yes. Well, see, but okay, during the pandemic, we were at a mall where there was Santa, but he was like in a big snow globe. He was like kind of in a bubble.
Oh,
Like the Pope.
The Grove did that, I
Yeah.
think. Yeah.
to keep him safe.
Yeah. So they could still have like a photo op with Santa, still talk to Santa, but he was just kind of trapped in this
The Santa and the plastic bubble. Oh my
nightmare.
God.
It's just what
You
it's
never
The
let him
elves
out.
rolling him everywhere.
They sprinkle in fish food from the top of it and then close the lid again.
No, I just love this quote. So Mitch Allen, founder and head elf of the event planning company Hire Santa.
You
talks
could do
about-
it, read it in an elf voice, because that's how I did it in my head when I was reading the article.
Well, what Mitch says is people are wanting Santa more than ever before. But the demand is outpacing supply. For every one Santa we get that reaches out to us, 20 people want a Santa.
Merry Christmas, listener.
What a hilarious dilemma.
And half of them want to be dentists. So,
Yeah.
and no one wants a Charlie in the box.
I think it is time to like
Face facts.
rebrand Santa, because there's always the thing where it's like malls kind of dance around the subject of like, well, like Santa, like he's a Santa, kind of like 007 isn't necessarily James Bond, where like there are these like Santa agents who work for like Santa who's too busy preparing for Christmas. But like, I think just like
That's Mission Impossible.
this will get us
But
on-
well-intentioned.
So this will get us on like Breitbart, Fox News. Rebrand Santa. Santas at malls do not have to be old Santa. They can be young Santa. They can be female Santa. They can be non-binary Santa.
and associated.
Can they be black Santa? Trevor,
can
is
be-
that what you're suggesting?
Yeah.
I am saying Santa can be anyone.
I'm being facetious, people. Just so I don't want to be taken out of context there. I have no problems with black Santas and any other kind.
That clip is going to be showing up on other podcasts. Yeah. You won't believe what they're saying over at the Big Fat Gay podcast. Don't go there. They're crazy.
Drag Queen Santa. There we go. That is the perfect.
That would be amazing.
Oh my God.
I have never had that thought before, and I'm so glad
I want
you
to
said
do
that.
Drag Santa.
I just like the idea that instead of asking whether you've been naughty or nice this year, it's like, have you been working it?
If you want these presents, you better work.
Yes, little children.
I'm picturing the elves. Like,
Well, they're the backup dancers.
I've never seen so many sequins on so few articles of like little tiny pieces of clothing.
Okay.
Santa doing a death drop.
I mean, Trevor did that earlier this week. Okay, well, we're back.
Yeah.
Hello, normal episode again.
Well, we have mailbag.
We do.
Yeah. Well, so it's
We have a special now. Here's the conundrum.
play
Which
them
music do
both
we
at
play?
the same time.
Okay, I can do that. Hold on. And that. It's so beautiful.
I'm so confused.
It's the
No,
best in the world.
No, listener, you're not having a stroke.
Oh, thank God it's not just me.
Don't say that, Trevor. They could be having a stroke.
I'm not a doctor. Today we have a very special Fat Watch that's also a mailbag because, of course, we're resorting to this nonsense at the holidays.
I personally, this is one of my favorite Fat Watches ever. So, hi BFGP. So to preface my fun little prompt, I wanted to make sure this thing was clear in case you decide to talk about it. OpenAI's guidelines for sharing content. Quickly ripping through these.
Manually review each generation before sharing or while streaming. Attribute the content to your name or your company. Indicate that the content is AI generated and in no way user could possibly miss or misunderstand. Do not share content that violates our content policy or that may offend others. If taking audience requests or prompts, use good judgment. Do not input prompts that might result in violations of our content policy.
Oh, that's the end of it. Anyway, the actual mailbag is I got the Open AI, which if you don't know, so you can write prompts into this AI and it will give you an answer. It will just generate an answer based on whatever you asked it to do. And it's incredibly flexible. You can do all kinds of crazy shit. They were doing this. Max, my brother-in-law, is especially obsessed with this. And in this case, this listener said, I got the OpenAI to do a cute Dr. Seuss poem. This was my prompt. Write a poem by Dr. Seuss from a version of Earth where getting fatter has been the epitome of beauty for the past century. Do not mention the word health, weight loss, gyms, fitness, or the word epidemic. And this is the AI's reply.
I am big and round and plump, and I love every jiggly lump. I don't care what others say. I embrace my size each and every day. I am proud of my fat rolls and stretch marks, and I flaunt them with joy and with spark. I don't need to be thin to be beautiful, for beauty comes in all shapes and sizes, full. So let's all celebrate our curves and our girth, and embrace the beauty of our size and our worth. We are beautiful, we are strong, and we are proud to be fat and fabulous all day long.
Wow, this was excellent.
So I wanted that to come from either Trevor or I, because that is the first poem about size I've ever read that where it feels so internal. Right? Like it feels like an affirmation. Like this sort of thing that like I'm supposed to memorize and repeat to myself, looking at myself in a mirror, that sort of thing.
I mean, you certainly could.
Yeah, it's a lovely, lovely image. And I find it like a really interesting point in time where we have AI generating these messages that appear to contain so much depth and beauty, but they come from an empty place. So I feel it's interesting. It's like it's a poem that the author had no emotion in. So I am sinking all of my emotion into it in its place. Does that make any kind of sense?
I get that.
I think
It's a weird thing.
there's a lot to say about AI stuff. I think especially with AI generated art, which there's a lot of controversy about, I think
Valid.
overall it's valid. And I think AI generated art is harmful in ways, which this is not the time to really get into.
That's a whole rabbit hole.
But to Don's point about it not really having emotion is, so Bon Appetit, for one of their things, or I don't know if it was Bon Appetit or New York Times. I think it was New York Times, actually.
I can't remember.
Was using OpenAI to generate Thanksgiving menus and recipes.
Okay.
And then they tested them and tasted them. And the general consensus was like, these are fine, but they like lack the soul that comes with cooking. Like there's just this emptiness to it where it's like, this is edible or, fine or whatever, like,
Or
and it
interesting.
makes a cake.
Yeah, and in some cases even good, and other times wacky because you're like, oh, because I said X and Z, it put these two things together, and okay, not terrible.
Yeah.
But yeah, you could tell it was not made with love.
No, so it's we've been talking about this for a couple weeks now.
Yes.
It's time for our holiday special of discussing 2006's last holiday.
I remember 2006. It was a kindler, gentler, simpler time.
Yeah.
If you remember 2006, you weren't doing 2006 right.
I was 16.
Oh,
and it was
goodness.
a terrible, terrible time.
I had just entered my 40s.
Oh boy. Anyway,
The relevant part of that was not 2006.
Yeah.
It was The Last Holiday, the
movie.
The romantic comedy, which I hesitate to call it a romantic comedy. It kind of is.
I think
but
I
it's-
love it so much because it isn't.
Yeah, it's more about Queen Latifah's character's journey of self-expression and self-discovery.
Yeah.
Yes.
Dan, did you want to do a little summary before we get into it?
Yeah, so should I utterly spoil it?
Yeah, because we're talking about it. And then
Yeah.
listener, if you haven't watched it and still want to, pause here, go watch it and come back.
So Queen Latifah, whose character is
Georgia Bird.
plays a worker at something like you can imagine maybe
Craigan's.
which is kind of
Macy's-esque.
What is that?
I think Macy's-esque.
Yeah.
I was going to say Williams-Sonoma
Something
because
like
they have a lot of home goods, but also a lot of cooking. She does a cooking demonstration. And the point is that she has a mishap at work, but luckily Work has an MRI machine.
No. They sent her
used
to the
MRI
hospital.
machine.
They sent her to the hospital.
I'm not so sure.
No,
No, they
it's a
sent her to
hospital.
like a clinic.
It was a
No, it's a clinic on
it was an
site.
insight. Yeah, because they were saying like it was the whole like we have this used machine. We may as well make use
Yeah, that's the
of it.
concession. It would be too unbelievable for them to have a new MRI machine, so it's used.
Okay.
Right,
So-
and which is actually a plot point.
And honestly, I tell you that, but in the movie, you're like, oh, okay, yeah.
You just go with it.
You just go with it. And because she's in an MRI machine because she had a fall, hit her head, got knocked unconscious. And they find out that, oh my God, she has this incurable brain tumor disease. So faced with this reality, she decides that she's going to live. And she blows all her savings on this incredible tour because she's been saving up all these ideas, all these fantasies and things she would do
Possibilities.
someday. It's her possibilities book, someday, one day. And she's like, fuck this. If I'm going to die, because they give her like 3 weeks.
3
to
weeks,
leave.
yeah, like
So
you
she-
dying.
If you don't spend all your money in 3 weeks, it will have been for naught.
yeah.
So she goes to this spa in Prague that she's always wanted to. Poop is the name of the spa.
She thought it was boop, but it's poop.
It's poop. She's like, y'all really say it that way? I thought it was at least French, like poop.
and also has her favorite chef.
Has her favorite
that
chef,
works there and does all the-
played
it's like-
by Gerard Depardieu. And
who is fantastic.
Yes. Anyway, so the point is, wonderful things happen to her. She discovers her love, and it turns out, the MRI machine, having been a used MRI machine, is giving these same diagnoses to all the patients who go
Everybody.
in. Everybody has the same brain spots, so they're like, okay, so that she gets this telegram at the last minute that she's not going to die, but that's okay because she won a bunch of money in the hotel casino. So now she starts a restaurant.
And the main point of her journey was that before she got this diagnosis, she was very sort of quiet, reserved, didn't stand out, didn't speak up, didn't do anything to put herself in any kind of risk.
The very first scene is she's in the church choir and is the quietest person in the choir.
Yeah. And she then says, fuck it, if I'm going out, I'm going to go out in style. And she learns to speak up. She learns to just live life and have fun. And there is, I would even call it a subplot of her being in love with this guy from work.
Oh, can I just say,
played by LL Cool
it's
J.
LL Cool J, and he is so friggin' handsome and hot in this movie. Jesus.
No,
I think hot, but also like sweet.
Yeah,
Sweet,
it's just
yeah.
like it's the
Very
sweetness that made him
innocent.
hot to me.
Yeah, exactly, Don. Exactly.
Meanwhile, she's been having her own adventure, her own sort of journey of self-expression and joy, and she gets wrapped up in this sort of political game with the founder of the store that she worked at, who's like this sort of who's the motivational speaker guy?
It's not Tony Robbins, if that's true.
It's not
But
Tony
it's
Robbins, but it's
it's-
kind of like Tony. If you mash Tony Robbins up with Elon Musk,
It's basically, so he's this greedy son of a bitch, white guy who has this empire. And to capitalize on that, as if it weren't enough, well, because his whole message is enough is never enough.
yeah.
And so that's the title of his book. His business book is Enough is Never Enough. And, her boss is reading this book and thinks he's a genius. And anyway.
Well, given that people have probably watched this movie coming into it, I think we should get to our reactions.
I inexplicably, I hate holiday movies. I hate rom-coms. I love this movie.
No, I don't think it is inexplicable. I get that because it's not aggressively either of those things. It, at its core and on its surface, it is very much about a woman, a fat woman's journey towards finding absolute joy and self-expression.
And I think that's
the movie.
And I think that's why I love it. I also love that, when she learns to speak up and she learns to speak out, but she is never, ever, ever not nice to people.
Yeah. My favorite, because there's a lot of examples of how she sort of starts one way and then changes, but my favorite one, and I because I've discovered the same thing, was that she loves cooking. It's her passion. At the end, she opens a bistro because that has always been her dream. And she's following all of these recipes from TV chefs like Emeril, making these dishes along at home for her family members. She makes them, she puts everything into it, and then she serves them, and then she eats lean cuisine.
Yes.
Yeah, she doesn't
That was
allow
a
herself.
really nice character point.
Yeah, it's beautiful examples of show, not tell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then the wraparound to this was that when she gets to this hotel, this beautiful spa hotel with the chef who works the restaurant, who is like this world-renowned chef, she sits down, she sees the menu. Apparently he doesn't serve the same thing twice. And so she says, I'll have one of everything. And this wins him over more than any other person who shows up there, any other ambassador or whatever.
Well, because as a contrast to that, the snotty rich people are all like, I want to have this, but no butter. I want to have this, but no
Risotto
cream.
with no dairy. Are you kidding me? What the fuck?
Yeah, which is the chef's reaction in the kitchen. But of course, he serves whatever he serves. But I'll have one of all of his specials. She doesn't know the entire menu, just the specials menu,
which is like 10 dishes.
Yeah, it's a significant thing.
Yeah.
Trevor's dying to say something.
Yeah, well, so I love that. I love all the cooking stuff in the movie, which they worked with Food Network for that part. But before she goes to the restaurant, it's kind of she's had her diagnosis. We've already seen her cooking and everything, and she's going through her possibilities book,
where she takes pictures of all her food.
And like flipping through, like, I should have eat that.
I should have had.
Oh yeah,
that.
her regrets in life are like she looks at the picture like I should have eaten that. I should have eaten
ate all that stuff. And
It looks so good.
I think my favorite line is, "I want to put my foot in that."
Like it's so good, I want to put my foot in it.
Yeah. She is so much like Dan. I don't think I've seen Queen Latifah in much. But it's never been, I think I saw her in one movie, like as a sort of a featured guest star, and it was fine, but she was kind of already she was already the queen. Like she was already Queen Latifah. Whereas in this, she looks much more like an ingenue, like younger. I didn't know where she was coming from as an actress going into this. But she is fantastic.
She's wonderful.
She's
She's been a
earnest.
really good actress. Ever since she first showed up on the scene, she turns in good work.
For this movie in particular, it's the earnestness is just, she is a kind, good, like self-defined person who gets to express herself and come out of her bubble and say what she means. And she's never an asshole about it, but she's always direct. And you just have to admire that.
Yeah.
It's so refreshing.
For me, the other thing, just as a technical writer thing that I am just so in awe of, is when you can link, in a movie like this, you need a lot of devices. You need a lot of ways to get people to organically, like at some point, she's been put in the presidential suite because they say, your room isn't going to be ready for 2 hours. And she says, have you got anything else? And the guy says, well, we have the presidential suite.
Her time is precious.
Yeah. And her time is precious. So I haven't got 2 hours. So put me in the presidential suite.
Yeah.
Because again, she's going to blow all her money anyway. So anyway, her personal valet finds out that she's going to die. And she says to Georgia, are you sure you want to be here with these terrible people? Mm-hmm. Wouldn't you rather be at home with your loved ones? And Georgia says, yeah, I guess I would. Mm-hmm. Okay, so here's the device that's so genius. So there's been an avalanche blocking the one road to the hotel.
Because it's on a mountain.
It's on a mountain.
It's way up there.
That's completely believable, right? Because it's in this obscure part of the forest. So she can't get out to go home. So she comes back to the hotel. This avalanche that blocks the road has 3 separate purposes. It keeps her at the venue because it gives her a reason she can't go home. 2, it creates an interesting tension of her would-be suitor trying to get to her. And
literally at the same time.
He's got it, so then he has to hike through the mountains to get to her as an offering of his love. And my favorite part is there's a scene later where she ends up, like what would be her fantasy, cooking in the kitchen with her celebrity chef idol. How does that achieved? Well, it's achieved because they've closed the road and the regular staff can't get to the kitchen, so she's there to help out.
I missed that, but that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that was very clever. And it also made for a beautiful scene.
Yes.
Oh, I love that scene.
Because they're related. That honestly could have just been sort of shoved in at the last minute.
Right.
But the use of Gerard Depardieu up to that point with her and cultivating their relationship culminated in that scene with this beautiful interaction between people really connecting.
Yeah.
Over a passion. Over their shared passion.
Yeah. And they're from completely different worlds. And because how do you get her in the kitchen? It makes no sense.
Yeah.
Because she's not quite impersonating a rich and powerful person, but people assume she is because she's there.
She's spending all this money.
And she's spending all this money.
She looks great.
So, but how do you get her in the kitchen? Oh, because she's the kind of person where if you're short-staffed, she will muck in.
Yeah. She'll roll up her sleeves.
So it's
and
also
help.
character. It's so fucking smart.
Yeah. And at that point in the movie, they've already developed such a friendship to the point that they've gone off together just to hang out, just to spend a day together.
They go shopping together for the restaurant's meal that night.
They connect. He says, you and I both know the meaning of life. And she's like, well, what's that? And he's like, butter. Which, by the way, they nailed it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, because it cracks up. It cracks her up and she goes, oh, don't tell anyone.
So my biggest regret with this movie was that I forgot to watch it soon enough.
Oh.
And so my partner Michael went back home to Tennessee to his family to visit, and then I'm going to go meet him. I'm flying actually tomorrow morning. So, but I watched this last night after he had left, and I was watching it like, damn it, I'm an idiot for not remembering to watch this while he was here, because it is one of those like feel good, like
Affirming,
fun, funny, delightful movies. Like I totally get it. I would absolutely watch it. And I maybe I'm a little bit kinder to the kinds of movies that you don't like holiday movies or anything, but not that much. Like they're not my thing either.
Yeah.
I totally get it with
you
this one.
You don't need to be vaccinated before you see it, though.
Exactly.
One thing I loved, which I didn't really think about it, I've seen this movie like a dozen times, but I didn't think about it until this watch, was so Jane Addams plays her best friend. Jane Addams, Mel from Frasier. So they put the mousiest little white woman in what would normally be the black best friend role.
Yeah.
And
It's
it
such
was
brilliant
and I just
casting.
really got it. And I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing.
They reversed it, yeah.
And it's so perfect and just like so wonderful and kind of like bizarro world to be like, wow, this is what that's like.
I feel like it's also a really good movie for this time of year because and this is going to sound like I'm talking down to it. I don't mean to. It goes down really easy. There's very little in this movie to challenge or contest, right down to the third act break. Right, the thing that really is supposed to tear her apart and do all that stuff according to act structure is someone revealing, "Ooh, you work in this department store for
You fraud.
You're
not
fraud."
actually a rich ambassador.
Which the stakes were for the one person who revealed it was the only person who cared.
the villain
right?
of the movie, basically.
Right.
Well, and he's vilified for revealing it.
Yeah, exactly.
He's crucified. Like he decides he wants to kill himself because
Yeah.
everybody leaves him at that point.
So, but so for me, it was interesting that you called it the anti-Hallmark movie because those sort of like low critical stakes making the movie so easy to watch are very signature of the Hallmark thing for me. But the lack of it didn't feel Hallmark schmaltzy.
Never.
No.
I hope everyone knows what schmaltzy means.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
so for
What
me,
are you, fakakta? Of course they have
I would react very badly normally to just a schmaltz movie, and this didn't trigger that for me. So
I liked how they used that moment because when they're all at the New Year's celebration at dinner and she's sitting there and then he stands up, the villain Kragan, to give a toast to basically revealing like, oh, she's not who she said she is. She's a liar. And then instead of that, typically a movie would take that moment and have everybody turn against her.
Right, as Don says.
As Don
that's your
saying,
fourth, yeah.
And they flip it where instead of that, she, this whole time, very few people know that she's dying. Only 2 or 3 people at this point know. And she's tried to tell people and it hasn't worked. And then eventually she decided to just hide this and cover it up. And so the reveal is not so much that, she's not who she said. It's that she is dying, but she gets to say it.
Yeah.
She gets to stand up and say, you know what, you're right. And this is why. And so they immediately flip this moment that would have worked one way into her owning the fact that this is the future she's facing and that this is who she is. I highly recommend this movie.
Yes.
If you haven't seen it and you've somehow decided to listen to this episode, go watch it. It's very much worth your time.
I think it's so interesting. I would love to know. So, this is a remake of a British film that it's basically the same, except it has a downer ending because it's British and
Exactly. Yeah.
but there was
It's a terrible tragedy because it's British, yeah.
but this was written for John Candy, but he passed away and then it was shelved. And I would be dying to know
Who rediscovered it?
well, how much was changed, and because I'm sure there was stuff that was changed. I mean,
To go from John Candy to Queen Latifah? Oh,
yeah.
yes.
And I think it's so interesting to just I was thinking about what this would have been like with John Candy and just how it would be so different because fat white guy fish out of water versus, fat black woman.
there are some things in here that I didn't bring up because this isn't the place for it, but race is not addressed in this movie, right? As someone
Not overtly,
not
but
overtly.
because it's American, it's always there.
I disagree. I was watching this movie and it's the fact that she's black doesn't really play with any of the interactions with any of the main characters.
I get what you're saying. They're not using a sledgehammer to do it, but I will finish your point. But I actually disagree.
Yeah, well, I was watching the interactions and just people make certain assumptions about her because she's black in the split second, but one of my issues with the movie is that everybody's opinions about everyone else changes on a dime.
Yeah.
Just instantly with no thought. So the
But that
best
does
example,
happen. But that does happen in life.
but not for every single human being in the movie.
Perhaps not. Yeah.
So the best example for that for me was the valet,
Yeah.
where she's, this evil mustache twirling, I can't wait to, get everything. And then the transition to her being on her side is so abrupt and so complete.
But it makes sense to me because she finds the note where she's dying. I mean, it's a big deal.
But making sense and making and bringing you on the change are two different things.
I think so. My take on that, because I could see that, like, the movie doesn't give you much to buy that moment, but my take of it was, you see the valet, you see her, and she is this stern, very stick up her ass type who wants nothing to do with any kind of fun. She's basically the anti-Georgia, in that she's a working class woman who just has no joy in her life and no desire to be nice.
At one point, Georgia says, like, what do you do for fun? He says, I shine the shoes that people leave in the hall.
And my take on it was that she is like Georgia if Georgia had grown up and just gotten older and older and more bitter.
Yes.
And all she really needed was one excuse not to be like that anymore. That was my take. And so she got that in this heartbreaking realization that I think she identified with Georgia. I think she identified a kind of, we're from the same place. She knew that Georgia, correct me if I'm wrong, she knew Georgia wasn't this wealthy person.
Yes, she knows that.
Yeah.
After she reads the letter.
No, she finds the ID card from the store.
Yeah.
She finds the store ID card. But in the same scene. In the same scene. That's splitting hairs. But, she does say, there's that recognition, I'm agreeing with you, Michael, where the valet says, like, why are you here with these terrible people? She knows they're terrible people.
Yeah.
She's taking money from the terrible people. She's doing work for the terrible people. Why are you here with these terrible people?
But that's not a moment of recognition.
No.
That's the result of
I actually want to speak to that point you made, Don, because I actually do agree with you that it's never scripted or depicted, the race thing. However, here's how I think it works. Remember, the movie was originally British. So J.B. Priestley, who's a British playwright and screenwriter, it's British, right? And it was made for a British cast. And so the conflict is class-based.
Yeah.
So I haven't seen the original, but you can see that
that's what you see in the movie.
That's what you see in the movie. It's clearly class-based. But what is that in America? Race-based.
Yeah. And particularly, she's from New Orleans, right?
Yeah, she's from New Orleans.
So you see, they're not hitting you over the head with race. Like, that is not in the movie. It's not the point of the movie.
I think it's intentional. Yeah.
I agree with you.
Right, because they're not. That's not the point.
It would
of the movie.
be a very different movie.
But consider the fact that for a black person watching this movie, they're seeing somebody from their community, from a place that they can identify with, in the same kind of stuck situation, who gets to go out and just live up life and sees a happy ending for themselves. It's not about race. The movie is not about that, but it is for the kind of people that will identify it because it is about race.
I will point
for
out
them.
one other thing that primed me to be looking at the movie this way, which is the doctor scene. Right?
Yeah.
She goes in, she gets a CAT scan, and it's from a, I guess, Indian American.
One would assume possibly Pakistani.
Yeah, something like that. And he's kind of nervous and nebbishy, and then
Dr. Gupta.
He just completely falls apart when he sees the issue. And she's shown into a office where the brown doctor sits in the corner falling apart while the nice white doctor comes in and explains everything rationally, condescendingly, but he's the one with the brains. It's not the brown doctor. And then the brown doctor is just sort of freaking out the rest of the movie.
Well, I think
that how I took it was the doctor, because I don't think it was, I think it was written for all white people in a class world, and they've transferred it to this other world. And so the joke with the doctor who gives her I'm so broken up that I have to give you this diagnosis, to the point that he can't even discuss the diagnosis, and they have to bring in another doctor to explain the diagnosis. And there's a shared look, like, you didn't tell her this, and the guy's in pieces, and he's like, thanks.
The joke is that the white doctor has no qualms giving her this horrible news. He does it emotionlessly. He doesn't give a shit. He just
quite clearly, very coldly and
and condescendingly, like, I'd give you 3 weeks to live. And she's like, wait, I'm sorry, what? And you know, like it's that vibe.
While the Indian doctor is like breaking down in the corner.
Yeah, well, he's just not a competent enough doctor.
I didn't
take it
see
that
it as
way at all. It
competency.
wasn't competence.
Okay.
It wasn't competence. It was compassion.
Yeah.
It was the fact that he cared about her so much that he was terrified to give her that news.
That's part of the job. Like, if it's part of the job.
But not in a rom-com. I think they were making it, and that's why he follows up. He's doing everything
He follows up,
can.
yeah.
Like,
Okay.
it is
I did not
competence.
follow it that way.
He's
It
the
did
one who
not read that way to
discovered,
me.
and Dr. Gupta is the one who discovers the misdiagnosis.
Because he keeps going, I can't accept this answer. I cannot accept this for her.
Yeah.
I can't accept that I've given her this diagnosis. And so he goes and tests the same machine, and that's how he discovers it was faulty. The other nod to race that I thought was interesting, and it's a total throwaway, and you may not even notice it necessarily. It's when LL Cool J's character Sean shows up at the hotel, and he's been hiking through the mountains. It's nighttime. It's New Year's Eve. He is exhausted. He is sweating. He's carrying all of his gear, and Georgia is out on the ledge trying to talk Kragen down. So like and they kind of see each other from like the courtyard. He looks up and sees her. He's like, stay right there, and he goes into the lobby, and this is where the bag boy sees him. And and Sean is like panting. He's like trying to get to the elevator, and the bag boy's like, oh, "You must be here for Georgia." And he's like, "How did you know?" Because they're the only two black people there.
Well, not true.
That's not true.
There's the senator.
The senator is also
black.
there.
The state senator from Louisiana is black, and there's a nice interlude between those two, between Georgia and him,
And they also have a relationship where she gets to kind of put him in his place for basically abandoning
for selling out.
for his community. Yeah, like
selling out
not
his community.
coming back,
Yeah.
and not helping. Anyway, so that's a whole long tangent that I think is got a lot of subtext to it. I think you can see it either way. The only thing, to Don's point about characters changing motivations too quickly, the only one that didn't sit well for me was Kragen. But you kind of have to he just becomes a nice guy at the end, and you're kind of like, but you kind of have to do that. And
no, he doesn't. He ends up withdrawing from society along with Dr. Gupta.
Well, no, like I mean, regarding Georgia, he's like suddenly fine with her, even though she's sort of indirectly destroyed.
But I
his
think
life.
but I think that's done. He does because everybody leaves him at the same time,
Except for her.
and except for her.
She comes back to save
She
him.
comes back to save him of all things. Well, that's
Yeah.
what I mean. She's always so fucking nice.
What do you think, Trevor?
I don't know. I liked it. And I think with the farce thing, like to the point of like things that aren't entirely believable, there's, when she goes and we have the fashion montage of her at the store, like a little kind of fashion boutique in a vacation town in Prague would probably not have clothes that would fit.
That
Queen
was
Latifah.
the most unbelievable
There's a point
moment
of
for
like where it's like there are so many outfits that she is rejecting
Off the
'cause there's-
rack.
Yeah, off the rack.
Yeah,
But like I don't want you don't want that in
your
that
movie.
Yeah, especially because the first thing the employee says to her is like, well, we can try to find something that will fit you.
It's
And
no,
then
she
they
doesn't
find
say
out, but
fit.
it's not-
She
it's
doesn't
not
say
fit.
fit.
It's
She
Georgia
Georgia
you
walks
look,
in and says, "Make me look international."
Right. Yeah,
right.
And then she says, "We can try.
try.
We can try.
It's
But that's the thing. Again, coming from the British roots where it's classist.
Yeah.
It's about and then what she tries on is incredibly American hip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she ends up wearing just the most amazing fashion stuff throughout the movie. But yeah, no, the unbelievable part is this tiny shop in Prague, probably the hotel shop even, has anything that would fit her, which is nonsense.
Which I think would be the same, like with like I think you could still have that scene with, John Candy going into like the little
course.
men's shop. And I think it would be the
equally
same thing of
unbelievable.
like, make me look international. And it's like, we can try.
Well, but the thing is, if John Candy does it, he's only always going to end up in a tux.
Yeah.
Or something
that's
laughably
true.
unfashionable or laughably non-workable. But then the movie doesn't work, at least in the same way.
All right. I checked the time earlier. It was 42 minutes, and I checked the time again just now, and it's an hour and 2 minutes. So I think it is time to move on.
Yeah.
Oh, Dan wants to wrap up.
I want to have a pee break.
Oh my God. No.
Okay.
We're not pulling over.
We'll come. I will say, if
cup right
Trevor has had to
there.
suffer through a bit needing to pee, I don't know.
Yeah, but that's because he's
So
I feel so much lighter.
we could keep going. Dan has
drop a
relieved
child
himself.
off, Dan.
Yeah.
He's back from his sojourn to the bathroom.
That's a load off my mind.
Well, do we have a tip today?
I don't know. Watch
Happy
Last
holidays.
Holiday.
Watch Last Holiday.
Happy holidays. Watch Last Holiday. Have some hot cocoa.
Yeah.
Ooh, hot cocoa.
Trevor prefers his with marshmallows.
Yes.
Well, we do have a bit, so
Let's get the bit.
Let's get bitsy.
gonna get bit.
Bit me.
I thought today, since we are enjoying such a lovely holiday movie, that we would take a little foray into the wonderful world of what the fuck holiday movies.
I love forays.
There is some strange stuff out there. For some reason, I guess people feel like if they're going to do low budget and weird, Christmas may be a great way to do it. So we've got quite the list.
All right.
All right. Santa Claus, aka Santa Claus vs. the Devil, is a 1959 Mexican fantasy film. In it, Satan has taken a disliking to Santa, who strives to make good children out of bad. So he sends a bright red dancing demon to Earth on a mission to ruin Christmas by making all the children of Earth do evil. These children conspire to take Santa and turn him into Satan's servant.
This explains Trevor so much.
Yes.
In it,
He's wearing red.
In it, what sets Santa's workshop apart from other versions of the Fantastic Factory? 1. It's a sweatshop in space manned by children. 2. All of its workers are scantily clad women. 3. The workshop is set in the New York sewer system and rats make the presents. Or 4. The toy shop is worked by living toys who occasionally use their own body parts in their creations.
Oh my God.
Women in bikinis.
Yeah.
We got 2 for women in bikinis.
Yeah. Women, B movie
wait.
schlock. I think
Just universally.
women in bikinis.
B-movie schlock.
I'm going for it.
All right, well, the correct answer is, in fact, it's a sweatshop in space manned by children.
What?
Damn.
So the devil
Are the children's? Never mind.
has a valid. Yeah. Moving
I
on.
stopped that halfway through.
Yeah, as well you should have.
Just as an aside, in case you were worried about Santa, Merlin the Magician is his sidekick through the movie, so I'm sure he'll do fine.
Santa's sidekick?
Yeah.
Or Satan's?
Santa's.
Santa's.
Go figure. All right. In What She Wants for Christmas, a 10-year-old girl writes to the North Pole asking Santa for something very special this year. When she realizes she's not getting what she asked for, what does she do? 1. Starts a conspiracy where children overthrow world governments in a children's coup in an attempt to build a better world. 2. Steals the nice list from Mrs. Claus during a rather graphic scene where she waterboards Mrs. Claus with mulled cider.
Oh my God.
Jesus.
3. Kidnaps Santa, ties him to a chair, and tries to force him to cough up the goods. Or 4. Leads a group of bad children from the naughty list to the North Pole to commit the greatest heist never planned.
I think fourth one.
I want the
Heist.
fourth one, but it's probably the third one.
Yeah.
I want the heist movie, but it's probably just like, give me my presents. No. Give me my presents. No. Give me my presents.
What
No.
year is this?
The year on this movie is 2012.
I think heist.
I think,
Children heist.
I don't know, this Santa Tied Up or
Mrs. Claus.
the waterboarding.
The apple cider boarding.
I want to say waterboarding because it's just more twisted and
Colorful.
yeah.
Okay.
It's cinnamon flavored.
The correct answer is, in fact, kidnap Santa, ties him to a chair, and
I knew
tries to
it.
force him to
Damn
cough
it.
up the
I
goods.
knew it.
You realist.
Yeah. I believe in the ineptitude of B filmmakers.
I have to admit, whenever I get through these things, I'm always like, I like my plot ideas better.
Exactly.
A little background for you. While this shockingly generic plot synopsis is pretty much the only description I could find, it's for the movie version of a pretty well-known PC video game series.
Oh.
While the video game has had 7 different sequels and spin-offs, this movie isn't likely to get even one. What is the name of the movie and video game described by this synopsis? When Santa's half-wit brother kidnaps the elves, Santa and super elf Lex team up to save the day. Is it 1. Santa's Sleigh Ride, S-L-A-Y. 2. Frosty's Tropic Adventure. 3. Rudolph's Extreme Mini Golf Challenge. Or 4. Elf Bowling.
I'm torn between golf and elf bowling.
Yeah, those are the two I'm going for because I don't think this doesn't sound like the game that has the kind of budget to do more than one thing. It sounds like they either did a bowling game or they did an elf game and they came up with a crazy synopsis. I don't know how they got a movie out of any of these.
People ask that, of course, about all video game movies.
I'm gonna
Anyway, moving on from that.
I'm gonna say bowling because I feel like golf is like there's more physics and stuff in a game.
Yeah, and bowling games have been a thing for decades.
Yeah.
I don't even know about video games, and I'm going with bowling.
I'm bowling
All right, we got 3 for bowling.
We're all wrong, of course. But
And the correct answer is, in fact, Merry Christmas, boys. Elf bowling!
Yay!
Joy for everyone. Points
It's a
all
holiday
around.
miracle.
Yes, there are, in fact, 7 different sequels and spin-offs to Elf bowling.
oh my God.
There is I think it was a Pepsi-sponsored, like consolidated version of Elf Bowling 1 and 2. It's Elf Bowling is a real game.
Does this involve like politically incorrect depictions of little people being pushed over with big?
Yeah, it's elves as bowling pins.
Yeah,
and
so that's
you
what I
bowl and you knock over the elves.
Boy.
And they seem very happy about it. So,
Yay!
Maybe a little too happy about it.
hey, don't kink shame them. What's wrong with you?
Elves love being bald.
Oh, Elf Bowling the movie.
All right, let's
You had to verify I wasn't making this
no
up,
longer just a video game.
We've jumped off the dam. Let's pull the ripcord. Trevor, if people can sign up for Elf Bowling via the podcast, where would they do that?
Well, we're on Instagram and Twitter as @BigFatGayPod. We're on Facebook as the Big Fat Gay Podcast. 5 stars there, 5 stars on Apple Podcast. Or it's on Patreon, www.patreon.com/BigFatGayPod. See the articles we talked about at www.bigfatgaypod.com.
no elves were harmed.
Maybe
this
you're
episode.
listening to this and it's Christmas Eve and you watch Last Holiday and you listen to this and you're finishing up your cocoa and there's a glow coming from outside and you're going to the window. What is that? Could that be? And it's my glowing red butt. And we're coming to your house to bring you a present. So
Damn, watch out.
I had to do it just to make sure.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Goodbye.
Happy holidays. Happy New Year. Happy Hanukkah. Happy Kwanzaa.
In the spirit of Christmas and Kwanzaa.
We're going to go Kwanzaa caroling this year?